I think we should talk about literature, because actually we're just trying to signpost what has happened in Nigeria in the last 60 years. We've spoken about, the Nigerian consciousness. We've spoken about oil and gas, which is, to my mind, is something that is very problematic for this country, even though it's been a huge blessing. I think we should talk about literature too, because it's something that has put us on the world stage.
That's correct.
And I wanted to find out from you, what in your own mind is the point where you think Nigeria arrived on the literary stage? Yeah, we know about Chinua Achebe and Things Fall Apart and how it's been translated into a lot of languages. We know about the writings of Wole Soyinka. Recently, we know of Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, Ben Okri. Mm-hmm. Is it Ben Okri?
Yeah, Ben Okri, Booker Prize, yeah.
The Booker Prize guy with The Famished Throat. And you see all of those incursions into the literary world. When did you think that we finally arrived on the stage? Will it be with Wole Soyinka and the Nobel Prize?
Well, that's one segment. That's a very important thing. Winning the Nobel before any African won it. That was, I remember, I was this 26-year-old journalist, working for The Guardian. I was in Professor J.P. Clark's Peck Repertory Theatre when the news broke, and I'm supposed to be some kind of a mentee of J.P. Clark. So I don't know what I was doing in his office, maybe having a glass of Fanta or something, and then he was speaking with his friend Wole Soyinka, and he passed on the phone to me. And Prof, he doesn't speak. Who are you? He just told me, watch what you write. Well, he said something that sounded threatening. I remember very, very vividly. But you see, we went to the ANA conference that evening. That year. Claiming the Nobel as a national thing. I remember that the slogan was, in that conference, the annual conference for that November, the slogan was, "We won the Nobel," as if the entire writing circle. So that's a very important one for the country. But the interesting thing is that there was also a literary drought almost immediately after. If you remember, so Soyinka is a dramatist, and a poet. At the time he won the Nobel, he had only published 2 novels, Season of Anomy and that Lagos novel, The Interpreters. The Nobel people said said something like fashioning the blah 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 of becoming. I think it was, in my view, Ake had been published, I think, in 81 or something, and that was one area that Soyinka was beginning to develop in, that people had not. His prison story, The Man Died, was one of the earliest of that genre, in which you use your own life story, and write this thing in the context of an evolving society, of a nation, and that might be one of the things that because whereas people talk about him being dramatist and that's some area that shaped his career over time. Nigeria itself hasn't evolved even in that. We're not a country of extended narrative prose. Real, non-fiction narrative. Yeah, we are either novelists, which is what we're now seeming to be seen in the world to be, and poets, and So the thing that came after that was what you might call the the poetic generation. The third generation of Nigerian writers were the ones that emerged, in a sense, after Soyinka. Yeah. But the way the literary world looks at things, they were looking at things from the point of view of the novel. And there was a drought of novels. And in fact, the world wasn't looking at us until we came back to democracy. So in a sense, for the post-Soyinka generation, the first real, the time that that the world started looking at Nigerian literature again, is that in that generation that Chimamanda belongs to.
No, but was there a generation that the world actually looked at Nigeria? So I'm looking at.
Okay, let me tell you.
If we start looking at it from the time of
even ourselves. Yeah, no, that's the thing. That's the thing. There are. So you have a number of people doing stuff, right? And they are being acknowledged. So you had. Don't forget that by the time Soyinka won the Nobel, the Oshundare generation, the Oshofison generation, that group had come out and done marvelous things. But, after that generation, which was also getting all the accolades in the world, you didn't have that recognition like that. I remember when Famish Road came out, yeah. And everybody was talking about it, and he won the Booker. It became like he broke a certain jinx. As a matter of fact, when we started
to a large extent, yes, maybe because it was also a very easy book to read.
No, but the thing is that people the world wasn't looking at some Nigerian thing. We won the Nobel, right? But was in Nigerian literature something that people were looking at, in a sense, So even us, we were saying, this is something, that's the thing. So I agree with you. It was easy to read. It was, it's a fairly large book. I think it repeated. I had the sense that it padded, because I would read this, I was saying, but this looks to me like this particular kind of scene. I read
but
it.
Then it became something that even in writing classes,
okay,
that some professors would tell you to look at Ben Okri's work.
Yeah.
The Famish Road, that they were short sentences, and so it was a reference point to
and there was also the fact, what they what you call perpetual storytelling. You just keep on, the Salman Rushdie kind of thing. Yeah. That's number one. And then the animation, what they call the animist thing, the tendency that, these things were happening in the spiritual world, and they were all, all that. There's something so it was huge. There's no doubt that it was huge. But I'm saying that it was something that, against the background of a certain bleakness of the landscape. That's all I'm saying. And that we didn't have that large number of supposed magical realism. Yes, thank you very much. Magical realism. But the thing is that it was exciting period. It was that particular. So I put it, and I don't know, because when we had our very first meeting for the Stampede, when we inaugurated the Stampede, the conversation was what writing. What's anybody writing? So we were trying to evaluate the quality of the Nigerian, prose or poetry or drama.
Lagos seems, in all of it, culture, literature, to be the center of everything. And apart from the fact that it was
just the way that there wasn't any, we were talking about dichotomies and co. Don't forget that there was Mbari in Ibadan and there was Mbari in the east. And what I'm saying is that there were nodes of activity, and nobody was saying one place was concentrated.
To get more attention.
That even happened after. All these guys, the clerks of this world, the Onobra players of this world, they happened in Ibadan. You understand? The whole thing, if you read J.P. Clark's Voyage, it was likely an Ibadan story. You understand? Now, but it was my generation, to go back to this same my generation, how important we are. It was my generation that witnessed this whole shift from Ibadan to Lagos. I remember, so let me define it. When we started coming out of university, right, the thing was changing. You don't forget that the Guardian is, I was 23 when the Guardian was. So, my generation follows the trajectory of this country. And so, by the time that the Guardian came out, there were all these whole idea that the Guardian began to encourage all that, essaying of intellectuals in the ivory tower. And some of them decided to move to work for the Guardian. And some of the most important either playwrights or critics, whether it was Akinosho or Oshundare, started writing for newspapers or magazines in Lagos. Oshundare's column in Newswatch. Oshofison working in Chinwezu working in the Guardian. Ofemu, was working for the Guardian. Those are Ibadan names.
Absolutely.
And they were happening in Lagos. And
so what was it about Lagos?
Where
other than it was the press?
The media was one thing.
Yeah.
But also the Civil War basically ensured that there was a collapse. The Mbari thing collapsed out of the Civil War challenges. All that accusation, Ulibaya being this, blah, 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 all of that broke up, the Mbari. So that particular center wasn't holding anymore. And don't forget that quite a number of these people also moved to Lagos. J.P. Clark set up a repertory theater in Lagos. Shoyinka has always been everywhere, and so quite a number of other things, began to take shape. A character named Tunde Kuboye started something at the at the museum, not very far from the Peck Repertory Theatre. And it was regular. It was, people like Larry King went to perform their poems. The same kind of tendency that happened in Ibadan in the early years began to, and for some reason Ibadan itself was not, it wasn't rebirthing itself. In the mid-80s, a lawyer named Fred Agbe, started producing, in early to mid-80s, started producing plays. A lot of the people, a lot of the actors that acted, in the Ajo plays, as they call them, from Ibadan, they moved entirely, some local and co. They basically took, spaces around National Theatre. Rented spaces and lived there. It became something like off Broadway, on Broadway. You know, I remember very vividly when Akin Lewis came to Lagos to live in Festac. You know, this same Akin Lewis, you know, this was an Ibadan guy. You know, I mean, Yomi Inka went back to Ibadan, but he was in Lagos at that time. So Lagos took over. I mean, and the best of Ibadan from Ibadan came to Lagos. You're asking why Lagos attracted them. Your proffered, you know, some suggestion that structural adjustment, blah blah blah. We do know that one of the casualties of structural adjustment was the publishing industry, which was something that Ibadan thrived on. You know, it's if every other you know segment of the economy woke up after that SAP, I think publishing died forever. I mean, the way we knew it. So whereas you have an Heinemann still happening the way it used to happen in the British era, in Kenya, in South Africa, it doesn't happen like that in Nigeria. You know, and you know the daily times of this world, the times of this world. You know, if you go to China, there is a China Times. I mean, in Hong Kong, it's so same owners that founded the Daily Times of Lagos, the Johannesburg Times that you talk about. It's the same guys. You know, the British, any part of the British Empire had the Times. You know, but we, you know, I mean, you know, we've evolved differently, and that's part of SAP.
One critical thing.
I don't know whether I've made sense.
Yeah,
you know, I'm just because this is not, I mean, strictly well thought out.
No, absolutely. I think you made a lot of sense. But I think that one striking thing that happened in Nigeria was Festac.
Okay. Yeah, we haven't talked about that. Yes, and that took place in Lagos.
And that took place in Lagos. It could have been in Ibadan, for instance. So, but Lagos was capital city of Nigeria then, and so you had to bring Festac here. But how did that define us culturally to the world?
No, I mean, my sense is that
other than it was, you brought Africans from all over the world to Nigeria.
No, I think Festac was a very comprehensive thing. You know, he had colloquial. He had if you want to say there were, you know, jazz musicians performing, there were black, blah blah blah. I mean, there was that. And if you want to define and say culture is about dancing naked maidens, he had it. But he also had, so he was full. So he defined us well. I mean, if we just didn't take advantage. I think that if there's anything,
the advantage that we were supposed to take from
no. If there's a sense that, I mean, there are times that people call me and say, okay, you run Lagos. I mean, you guys, you know, put together Lagos Book and Arts Festival. How come you are not this, you are not this? That's the kind of thing I'm talking about. There are people who just understand, you know, how to, you know, continue and expand the platform that something points to them. So if you mention Nigeria in 1978 in a place like, Dominican Republic, there was a sense in which people understood what was that. I'm not sure that if you mention Nigeria in the same place in 2001, they will remember like that, because you did not do programs. You didn't, you know, I mean, okay, so let me give you an example. The Goethe Institute is a cultural program of the Germans, right? Is there an equivalent of that kind of thing in, say, a Nigerian embassy in Ethiopia? So, I mean, you know, if you got to it's money. You know, you actually can borrow, but it will pay you back. Do you understand? There's nothing wrong in, I mean, when I was in Tanzania, when I spent a bit of time in Tanzania, one of the most important, and this was a long time ago, this was 20 years ago, one of the most important restaurants was something called Addis in Dar. You know, it was an Ethiopian restaurant. What was Ethiopia relative to Nigeria? I'm sorry. I mean, I know that it has big history and cool. I mean, I'm just saying that you know, you export stuff, even stuff that people assume you don't have, but we were too timid, and it was because we really didn't have a sense of, you know, of the occasion. We didn't understand what we were taking on, you know. And it's not just us. The Senegal that did it before us also did, but it's a small country. How many people? But we had the opportunity to do much more, and we didn't. You know, we just caved in. You know, I mean, that kind of, we've done Trump before Trump. You know, reduced America to to one city. You know, so that's the thing. You know.
Well, I hope we've been able to cover the country as much as we can, but I won't let you go without asking or without doing this rapid five, which is where I bring my paper.
Okay.
And then we're going to be looking at music, literature, football, destination, and food.
Okay.
Out of the list, which one are you not quite conversant with?
Football, of course. I don't understand.
Okay, so that's where I will start from.
I don't know what they're doing. I know that I knew my stores and I knew my Rangers, but all these characters that have come since, you know, I mean, let me tell you something. I think it was around 1996 or so when we were darkening the space called Thisuba, that I first got a wind that things were changing. I remember that, you know, the earliest big DSTV, you know, would be in the bar, and, you know, these guys who had gone and come back would be screaming I didn't take them seriously. You know, but that was basically what happened, and we allowed them. I mean, maybe the world would have been a better place today, you know.
Okay, but we won't go into that. But what I want to ask you from that is, football, Yakini, Kanu, Segun Odegbami.
Segun Odegbami, for my generation. I mean, I was in Ife. In 1980, you know, I went to University of Ife.
Oh, come on, Yakini was the greatest footballer.
Well, but I just told you that I was old-fashioned, that I knew my stores, and, you know, I mean, and, you know, this was a guy who was, you know, like, you know, someone was roughly 10 years older or 11 years older who was a graduate, you know, and an engineering graduate, you know, and who could do this, you know, and we will stand, you know, in Fajri Hall, and we'll be listening to that gentleman who say mathematical, that he goes again, you know, and all those goals, you know, that they took the world by storm, you know. So it was a very important, I mean, so yeah, Yakini, I don't know him. I mean, I told you I'm not very conversant with these characters.
Okay. Out of the lot, maybe food is not so serious, so we'll talk food.
Okay.
Amala, pap, or rice?
Amala now. Amala, sure. I wasn't, you see, let me tell you, I was kind of strangely an Ajebota boy.
Really?
I had cocoa oats, so not purple. But let's be serious. Amala was something that my mom did every Thursday evening with a goosey. And, you know, no, it was a goosey. It was, my dad wanted his goosey, you know, and it was a Thursday afternoon thing. And wrapped it in very thick that was her own idea of an oven. Whenever you came back from, bruising yourself all over the place, you just knew that you had all that thing wrapped for you, and you sat down with it. So amala and egusi, yes.
Okay.
See, the gbegiri and ewedu was something that you ate outside. That was a standard thing in canteens all over Lagos, in mama puts all over Lagos, yes. But at home, it was egusi that my mom, my mom.
Let's look at destinations.
No, outside of the country or
in Nigeria. Come on, we're talking Nigeria.
No, sure.
No, I will ask you.
Sure, my best place.
Let me ask you first.
Yeah, okay. Oh, Lagos, okay, you have a list.
Lagos, Abuja, Ife.
For if you're talking about Ife, well, Lagos. Look, I could do Lagos. There are places in Lagos I haven't explored. I'm always believing that I'm a creature of this city, that I have not even attempted to understand it enough, right? So even when I go out, there are times that I tell myself, I could have taken this holiday for the purpose of trying to figure out Lagos. I had a colleague's wife, Liz Fight. Mark Fight was a geologist with Chevron. So his office was next to me. He was an operations geologist. I was mapping. And his wife and I had this gallery that we were running, in the back of, in the expatriate quarters in the Chevron campus in Lekki here. Okay. And so Liz and I were very close, and they will set up, tours. They will cruise the Ekpe waters. They would, mark places like palm wine, under bamboo that they would do. I've always felt, I will collect some of these things from her. I'd always wanted to pop. I don't know where I lost those things. Lagos itself is, and I'm not talking, although if you ask me, you are not asking me for there are places in Abuja I can tell you.
Lagos, Abuja, Ife. Which one do you
prefer? That's what I'm saying. At the end of the day, when you've given me places that unfairly compare with Lagos. I like Abuja for its night hounds.
You schooled in Ife?
No, but Ife let me, there was something
let's
about.
Take it to me this is
wait. No, it's not.
So you have
Lagos.
To choose one.
I've chosen Lagos. That's the sad thing. see, hang on. Ife in 1979 to 83 was so. The campus itself was so full. Do you understand? Every week there was a drama in Odudua. Every week, the best quality. Characters like what was his first name? Lijadu, and all of those people. They were both students and also working for the university theatre company, and they were doing a whole range of the Bankole Olaebi. In fact, the very first night, my first night in Ife, I saw Bankole Olaebi in the Pilkings. I think he had just acted in Death and the King's Horseman. So that's the atmosphere. But it's, whether you like it or not, it's still not as big, as massive as Lagos is in terms of, I had gone to, don't forget that, as I said, I'm a creature of Lagos. I was 17 when National Theatre was built. And I had gone to National Theatre like 1 million times before I went to Ife in 79. I had seen Girl from Petrovka in the new one in National Theatre. I'd seen all of those blaxploitation films in National Theatre. When I went to Odudua, when I started seeing films in Odudua, a lot of those Ekiti boys were surprised that this boy didn't take their Odudua because what are you talking about? So Lagos is.
You have seen it on the big
exactly
stage.
Lagos. So just chances all these places. It's not the cultural experience of Lagos. If you live it, No,
Okay,
so it's not.
Lagos it is.
But I wish you were asking me broadly. I would have said the one space, one real chunk of real estate that I love most in this country is the marina in Eket. I've never seen a more scenic environment than that. In all of the Niger Delta, Eket is the most beautiful town. That's what you should give me my country. Now let me choose, and you are narrowing me to 3 funny places.
No, well, because
no, I'm sorry, but
those are the places.
Okay, no problem.
Maybe
no
not
problem.
Abuja. I'm not sure how much of an impact.
No. I'm an Abuja man too,
Yes,
but that's for the nightlife. If you throw me into Wuse 2, I mean, Wuse 2 is like an expanded Admiralty Way, where all those bars and you can do whether you're doing Kizital or Beer Ban or I mean, there are just so many. Every time Sofa Lounge. Every time there's something new when I go to Abuja, I want to take somebody to take you to D, blah, 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 for dinner, to take you to the New Yorker, to take you to 0805.
Well, I mean, it turns out that
but then that's
not just Abuja where you have, a long list of places where you can go to. I know that.
I know there's Port Harcourt, but Port Harcourt is dead. Port Harcourt ended, in my view, after that 2006 raid on Goodfellas, when they picked up that Wimbo guy, in my view, that was the end. I've been to Port Harcourt several times after. The same places that I used to really enjoy, I don't enjoy them again. I went to somewhere that was relatively new, that was good, but it didn't. There's a sense in which all of those years of, roughness are taking a toll on that city. But it used to be my town.
Okay, so for destination, we'll put Lagos/Eket. Or Eket/Lagos.
I think that people should explore, they should just try and do that part of Akwa Ibom. And they'll be, yes.
Let me do music before I go to literature.
Okay, sir.
Fela, KSA, or Majek?
The thing about, you have created a crisis for me. KSA was the first artist that I knew as a young man. His Challenge Cup came out when I was 8. But it was Fela's palaver that disvirgined me as a young man. So you see, it's difficult. In 1975,
You have to pick one.
Okay, so I'll pick KSA. Because KSA, the reason why I'm picking KSA is that I think that he was unfairly dealt with by that Shinomania thing, which in a sense seeded what is today's Afrobeats. In a sense, broke all that. I mean, for 2 to 3 decades, 2 juju guys, just monopolized that, what you might call,
yes.
And then this guy comes in the late 80s, screaming without really having anything to do. And the media picked him up. And he went, the Shinomania thing went everywhere,
But it was revolutionary.
Well, they said it was. They said it was.
The
Momodus of this world and co. They said it was. I was struggling with what he was trying to do. But, yeah. But then he succeeded in killing.
Shinomania had good
evolution. Thank you, sir.
From Shaje.
Who is Shaje?
No, okay, so there was a variant of Fuji music that was called Shaje, and it was some type of drumming, which Shino took on. Or
was it part of? I don't think that it was. It wasn't. It was more like an upbeat juju than.
No, it wasn't Fuji. Yeah, it was just something that he picked out of Fuji. And turned it into juju music.
Well, I don't.
all of that.
I mean, what you might call the etiology of.
Okay, so we pick KSA.
Yeah, so I picked KSA for that. But I wanted to tell the story of why Fela is important, you know. So I went to this, this was 1974, 5. I was either in Form 3 or Form 4. And Dupo Dina, you know, the guy who ran for Ogun State, yeah, who died, you know. We were classmates in Baptist Cards then, and so they had this party.
Baptist Academy.
Yeah, so they had this party. Yeah, we were Baptist Cards. So they had this small party, and they put palaver, you know, and this, you know, palaver was blues, you know, and this woman just grabbed me. I mean, 14-year-old me, and I mean, my trouser, I wasn't sure anymore. So that's why, you know, Fela becomes something in my. And then Fela's son came to came to Baptist Academy when we were in Form 4, and he was, you know, he would take all of us to the shrine, you know. I mean, he was Dotun's school son, Dotun Larry Bigbe, you know. And that one will say, you must go, you know, I mean, harass him, and then we will be 5 of us, we'll get into the shrine using the butt of cigarette, you know, to make it so you could stamp up to 5 people like that, you know, if you ensure that your palm was wet and you held the tip of a cigarette, you know, that sort of thing. So I knew Fela long before I went to Ife, you know, but KSA is the man.
So, it's literature now.
Okay.
And let me start from the back.
Okay.
Chimamanda Achebe Soyinka.
Soyinka. But, you know, the thing is, Soyinka is a guy you keep on discovering. Chimamanda, you know, I was a major fan of, I like the updating of Things Fall Apart that Popular Hibiscus was meant to be. You know, that's reverse thing about, you know, as opposed to having some things falling apart because Christianity had intruded. I mean, there was this choice that she made clearly of Papa Anuku, you know, who is a traditionalist, who, you know, against her own father, the father of the protagonist, who was a staunch Christian, and he makes that one look very bad. And Papa Anuku, you know, all of that. She plays very nice game with that Things Fall Apart thing. Then I enjoyed Half of a Yellow Sun. And then I read, you know, everything. I mean, something against your head. You know, that collection of short stories. Yeah. But
The Thing Around Your Neck.
The Thing Around Your Neck. I enjoyed all of those short stories.
Is that Chimamanda?
No, it's Chimamanda. Yeah.
The Thing Around Your Neck.
But when I got to Americana, I couldn't go past the second or third. And then I felt that I read virtually the same thing over and over. You know, I've read all the things that Chinua Achebe has written. There's also a sense of, you know, getting the same thing. I'm sorry, you know, but that's my own interpretation. But there's a whole lot of diversity in Soyinka, whether you're reading Death and the King's Horseman or you're reading... when I read Alakbata, which he wrote in 2016 or something, the play, I was like, what kind of a human being is this, you know? And I've read all those pieces that he does, the intervention series. You know, he's just, I mean, there's so much variety. You know, I've read You Must Set Forth at Dawn. I've read, you know, I mean, he's just different. You know, he's such a massive guy. So I will pick him over and over again. I'm sorry, I'm supposed to be a Chimamanda person. But if you have put Sefiata, I might have struggled, you know, that sort of thing. But you didn't put Sefiata, so. you know. But it's okay.
I think I deliberately did put.
Yeah, no. But you're unfair. You put two men of the same generation, and then you put poor young lady of that, you know.
No, because I think that she's probably done a lot to.
She's massive. She's
sit-
massive. As a
to
matter of
sit in
fact,
that
if
space.
you take a poll of people who are younger than 40, they won't even talk about Chinua Achebe. They will just massively say this is the, and it's true. Half of a Yellow Sun is a tour de force. You know, he's a major book. Even though it's a summary of all of the books of the world that we.
Do you think a Nobel Prize is possible for?
Oh, look, they are pointing this lady towards this place now. Every time that she says something, it's massively. That's it, Nobel now. You know that Nobel, you have to also, okay, well, not necessarily in all cases. I wanted to say that you have to also be seen as an activist in a way, but no, not necessarily. There have been Nobelists that are not, you know. Kodzea is not your activist. He's just writing his books, you know, and there have been quite some. So yes, but she might just be our next one, you know. It's very possible. She's big in this period, so yeah, so that's
so interesting. My last question will be, at 60,
yeah,
not you, Nigeria, at 60, talk to Nigerian youth.
yeah. I know that, I think the biggest challenge the country has, the reason why it's not working, is that while we have failed on our own, we're not doing enough to even say, it's like Orisha bi Olegbami, the thing is, this generation hasn't worked, and we have quite a number of people who have broken through. It's true that it's also a despondent generation. It was a generation that, was born into promises. You can imagine being born in the year that the
but
country.
We say that about every generation. I think that people said of our generation that we were despondent too.
No, the reason, you came in the midst of the war. You came at the time the war was ending. You came. You understand? It can't be worse than that. It was like, what do you inherit? But we inherited possibilities, right? So in your case,
but I also saw a lot of possibilities.
Okay, the reason why I'm saying this is this. I don't know, and maybe we can share stories. But it also means that we're not yet responding to what the question is. But
I just wanted to. No, just for you to have the opportunity to buttress the fact that you think that this generation is despondent.
No, my own generation or the one.
Now.
No, we're not even giving them any hope now. You understand? We're not attempting to solve the problems of the country.
Okay, from that perspective.
You understand?
Yes.
That's the point that I was trying to make.
Yeah.
But I was also trying to differentiate it, to let you know that even though they will look at us and say, you guys, you left a crappy country. The thing is that, it is more nuanced than that. When I go to Old Boys Association, I see a tiny group of guys who manage to have defied the Nigerian risk and made something. And I see a vast number. We're supposed to be that hopeful generation, and I see a vast number whose retirement, is in abject poverty. I mean, it's everywhere, whether it's a Baptist old, whether it's an old boys association in secondary school, or whether it's a university, I'm sure you see it yourself. You see people who you need to, among your own mates that you probably need to turn around the constitution of the Old Boys Association to not developing the school that you went, but to solve their own problem. And so it's not as amazing as the young people see. When they say you had the country, what did you do with it? The country itself messed up those people. But should we? But my own challenges are the few, at least the fairly substantial few who broke whatever. How much collectively have they done?
So
so that's I worry about that. Yes.
Your advice for them still, young men behind the camera.
Yeah, it's
shooting you.
No, the thing is that
it's them that you need to talk to.
Where is their country? Let them own it, because we're not handing anything. So let them just grab it, whatever they can with all their might. Let them tell themselves, well, I'm not having. I read something in Dreams from My Father, Barack Obama's first book, the book really. All these other ones are. This was a genuine, heartfelt, story of becoming, and so he gets to Kenya, and they hand him over, and they hand him some of the things, some letter that the patriarch, his grandfather, who worked with the British, scripts of, something not even anything like a glass of water. Like a tumbler to put, no. So, and he says there, so this then is my inheritance. But he became the president of the United States. So there's nothing that we're handing. Just take it. We basically haven't run a country that's a success. So you are the turning point generation. You just, please, build a country, please. We haven't built one. Please build it. And I'm sorry, I apologize. It's unfortunate because as I said, I grew up in a city that had 15 hours of electricity, and my colleagues have run the country, and they are struggling with one that has 5 hours of electricity a day. So let them grab it, like Obama did, like Barack did in that house, that mud shack in Kenya, and collected those scraps of paper and said, this then is my inheritance. This must have been way 15 years before he chose to run. That young man was nothing. He was driving. I didn't know he didn't write that in that his own book. You have to read Becoming by Michelle Obama to find that. He was driving this jalopy that had holes. Hole in his, you could see the road. Yeah, when he was cutting that lady. But in that book, his own first book, he took her to Kenya. As that stupid. Meanwhile, this girl had gone to what was that Ivy League? Harvard. No, I can't remember. The other one, Princeton. She went to Princeton. So you grab a girl from Princeton and you're carrying her in that funny beat up because you know that you have potential. That's what I want these guys to do. Just take this crappy country and turn it into gold for us, because I'm not sure. I'm handing dust to them. Rust to them. That's it.
Thank you very much. I think that's quite profound, and some of them here are quite happy to hear that.
No, they will be sad. They will feel, well, but boy, you are not giving us anything. We are saying, but that's the thing. Let them just. It is not anything. Let them just run with it.
Thank you
Yeah,
very much,
you
Mr.
know.
Akinosho. It's been a pleasure and quite honored that you were able to do this with us.
Thank you very much. I really do appreciate. This is an honor.